I'm Dr. Aparajita Bhatt from National Law University, Delhi. The topic for today's discussion is computer forensic or cyber forensic. The learning objectives of this module are that you shall be able to understand the concept of computer or cyber forensic, the different stages in the computer forensic investigation, the basic tools used in the field of cyber forensic, what are the shortcomings of computer forensic techniques, and lastly, the various legal issues involved in the field of cyber forensic. The learning outcome of this module will be that you shall be able to understand the concept and meaning of computer forensic and would also be able to analyze the legal challenges involved in the field of computer forensic. Now, it is for sure that there is a certain and definite relationship between cybercrime and cyber forensic, as we are not unaware of the fact that there is a rapid development and rapid change in the use of technology. This rapid development of information technology at the global level has led to the growth of new forms of cyber crimes, and these cyber crimes are transnational in nature, mainly because of the reason that internet recognizes no boundaries, it is borderless. Such crimes have no boundaries and therefore they may affect directly and indirectly all countries across the globe. These criminal activities, which are in the form of cybercrime, they directly relate to the use of computer or internet, especially in case of illegal trespass into computer system or database of another. The cases of hacking, the cases of cracking, they are quite common these days. Few other examples are manipulation or theft of stored data, data diddling, and tampering with the computer source code. It is important to understand the meaning of computer forensic or cyber forensic. Forensic in simple terms and literally it means to bring to court such evidence which can be taken to court to be produced as an evidence. Therefore, forensic is the use of science to investigate and establish facts in a criminal or civil court. Forensic science is the scientific method of collecting, filtering, analyzing and examining information about the past. The science is especially important in the field of law enforcement, where forensics investigation is done in relation to civil law or criminal law. Computer forensic has many characteristics. It is also recognized as a science of digital forensic nature pertaining to legal evidence found in computers. Cyber forensic or computer forensic is the art and science of applying computer science to aid the legal process. It is a combination of art and science, it is a combination of law and science, it is a combination, we can say, of law and technology to find out the truth, to trace out the evidence and to produce the same into the court. It is the application of computer investigation and analysis techniques in the interest of determining potential legal evidence. Computer forensic is the acquisition, examination and reporting of information found on computers and networks that pertain to a criminal or civil investigation, although the same processes and methods are applied to corporate and other private investigations. The investigation of cybercrime and the gathering of admissible evidence, this is the science of forensic computing. The science of forensic computing or cyber forensic is a difficult, is a complex science, it is a complex issue. The reason being that there are many intangible and often transient nature of data, especially in a networked environment, and it becomes difficult to find out the truth, it becomes difficult to trace out the evidence and make it producible in a court of law. It is a tool which combines science and law to find out the truth. It is a process to answer questions about states and its events. Computer forensic is the application of computer investigation and analysis techniques in the interest of determining potential legal evidence. Forensic science or computer forensic or cyber forensics, by whatever name we may call it, it is the application of a scientific discipline to the law the essence of all forensic disciplines necessarily concerns the principles applied to the detection, collection, preservation and analysis of evidence to ensure its admissibility in legal proceeding. Forensic computing refers to the tools and techniques to recover the data, preserve the data and examine the data stored or transmitted in binary form. After having known the meaning of computer forensic, many definitions and explanations to this concept have been given by various scholars, such as Civi and Civi's. He defined forensic computing as the pursuit of knowledge by uncovering elemental evidence extracted from a computer in a manner suitable for court proceeding. Now, in this definition, the term elemental implies operations on a fundamental level, such as the microscopic elements of the medium or the bits and bytes of an individual sector. And the term uncovers refers to the presentation of some aspect of evidence not available through simple observation. Another definition is given by Farmer and Venema. They defined forensic computing as gathering and analyzing data in a manner as free from distortion or bias as possible to reconstruct data or what has happened in the past on a system. McCombie and Warren, they suggested that computer forensic can be defined as the collection, preservation, analysis and court presentation of the computer related evidence. Now, all these definitions, when read together, they indicate that forensic computing or computer forensic occurs post facto, which means that computer forensic investigation aims to investigate criminal and other inappropriate conduct that has been committed by the use of computer or electronic device. Therefore, in all cases, the tool or technique to be used in computer forensic investigation has to be used post facto after the crime has occurred. Hannon et al. Asserts that forensic computing is a process or a procedure involving monitoring, collection, analysis and presentation of digital evidence as part of a priori or post-mortem investigations of computer misuse. So, once the computer has been misused, once the hacking has been done or cracking has been done or there has been a case of data diddling, thereafter only the tools and techniques which are found in the science of computer forensic or cyber forensic can be applied. The data can be recovered, traced, filtered, analyzed and finally can be taken to the court for presentation. It has been observed that forensic computing investigation teams are taking part in proactive or a priori investigation or intelligence gathering task along with the post-mortem forensic computing activities. So, now we know what is the meaning of the concept of computer or cyber forensic. We also need to understand the scope and significance of computer forensic. As we all know that computer and the internet, they represent the fastest growing technology tools used by criminals. There has been a rapid change in the technology, in the use of information technology, which has been used by criminals to commit crimes. The way, the manner, the mode in which crimes were committed have now been changed. Now, the old criminal activities have been converted into white collar crimes and it is very easy to commit any criminal activity through the use of information technology, through the use of computer, through the use of internet. So, crimes such as defamation, such as mischief, fraud, trespass, etc. now they do not require the traditional constituents to be committed. Information technology has provided much easier and much faster alternative methods to commit crime. For all these reasons, computer forensic is becoming increasingly popular among the nations and among the law enforcement agencies. It is now easier to commit cybercrime or white collar crime because they are non-violent crimes, they yield high profit, have relatively low risk of capture and if caught and convicted usually result in shorter prison sentences. And as already discussed, As we know that internet is borderless, it recognizes no boundaries. It has now become easier to commit crimes of transnational nature, the transnational cyber crimes. Now, the biggest issue and challenge in the study of internet crime is the problem of jurisdiction. The information technology has now totally changed the crime scene investigation. Now, due to dynamic nature of internet, a website which has been used to perpetrate a crime one day, it may be an altogether different website on another day, or may be absent on the next day. A criminal can gain access from a different computer at a different location every time he logs in. Therefore, information technology, the use of computer or the use of internet has provided a lot of easier ways and easier means to commit the crime. With crimes such as identity theft, phishing, impersonation, fraud and similar other crimes enabled by the use of information technology, it is now easily possible for a criminal in one country to penetrate a crime, to make possible any criminal activity against a person who is a resident of another country, all the while using servers located in a third country. Therefore, the jurisdiction in such a situation is the main issue, is the main challenge. At the same time, with the advancement in technology, internet access and storage devices, they are all becoming smaller, they are becoming cheaper, they are becoming faster and more mobile. It has now become more convenient for criminals who are engaged in traditional crimes such as murder, kidnapping, terrorism, drug dealing, criminal hacking or any of such other crimes to maintain files with incriminating evidence on their computer. Therefore, the use of information technology or internet has now increased in case of committing criminal activities. In such a scenario, in such a situation, the scope and significance of computer forensic or cyber forensic becomes more relevant. It is very much imperative to use the tools and techniques of computer forensic to find out where the criminal is actually situated, where the criminal is located and how he has given effect to the criminal activity. There are various stages involved in the procedure of computer forensic investigation. These stages can be broadly divided into 4 categories. The first is the collection and preservation of evidence. The second is extraction of evidence. The third is examination of evidence. And finally, the organization of evidence. After all these 4 stages, once the data is recovered and made presentable, it is taken to the court and produced before the court. Now, let us discuss each of these steps one by one. The collection and preservation of evidence. The entire procedure of collecting the data and preserving the data, it involves a number of further stages such as identifying the nature and the location of data, preserving such data in a manner that minimizes interference with the original data, analysis of the data for intelligence and evidential purposes, and finally presentation of the data and evidence derived from it in a court of law. The computer forensic experts, they are required to analyze the computer system, computer network, non-functioning of computer, cracking the password, audit trails, imaging or cloning of hard disk, etc. Everything, each of these activities in detail. The most immediate and important objective of the collection and preservation process is the imaging of the evidentiary evidence, to take out multiple images, to take out multiple copies of the evidentiary device. The investigator must reproduce the forensically sound image of the computer media, which means that every bit or byte in the data area in the original evidence media should be accurately reproduced. Every bit or byte should be accurately reproduced, not just most of the bits and byte, but every bit and byte, so as to make sure that it is accurate and authentic. The image copy must contain identical content to the original. So, imaging is a very important step involved in the collection and preservation of data. The images are accepted as an accurate representation of the original digital media. Multiple copies of the images are created for different purposes. The tools which are commonly used for collection and preservation of evidence are software imaging tools, hardware imaging tools, imaging validation tools, and write blocking tools. The next step in this collection of computer forensic investigation is the extraction of evidence. This is the second most important step or stage after collection and preservation of data. The following tools are commonly used for the purpose of extraction of evidence: hidden data recovery tools, known file filtering, encryption identification tools, password recovery utilities, and virus detection capabilities. Once the data is collected and preserved, thereafter extracted, it requires to be examined. So, the third important stage in this procedure is examination of evidence. This is the third stage. The extracted evidence must be examined by the forensic investigator. The expert must refine and examine what has been collected. During this phase also, the investigator uses the available tools and techniques to target specific digital evidence. After refining his search, the investigator can focus only on relevant information. The general activities during examining the evidence are to search the computer for documents, to search for deleted files, to search for images, emails, etc. The commonly used tools for examining the evidence are file listing, file extension search utilities, and file identification and viewing utilities. And finally, once the data is collected, preserved, extracted and examined, it needs to be organized. The filtered data needs to be organized properly so that it can be made presentable to be taken to a court. This stage is most critical and most important to the investigation. The examined data is systematically organized so as to be produced before the court of law. Commonly used tools for organization of evidence are link analysis tool and timelining utilities. You can see the diagram on the screen. The four stages are divided into the collection of evidence, the examination of evidence, followed by analysis of evidence, and finally the evidence report is drafted or report is made, which is taken to the court. This is another pictorial representation of the four stages, which you can see on your screen. Step 1, investigation of network and computers on seizing of the data storage device. Step 2, this is isolation of evidence, preservation and cloning or making images, which is followed by step 3, the examination, the in-depth examination of data, and finally making of the legal report to be produced in the court. After having discussed all these stages in detail, there are many shortcomings involved in the procedure of computer forensic techniques. One of the biggest challenge posed by the information technology is the newness of the crime and the redundancy of the traditional legal provisions to deal with such cyber crimes. Now, there are old crimes such as theft, robbery, murder, kidnapping, mischief, fraud, defamation, which are mentioned in the Indian Penal Code. All these crimes can be done now with the help of information technology in a more easier way, in a non-violent way, and without tracing out the whereabouts of the criminal. But other than these old crimes, there is a new category of crime altogether known as cyber crime, which were not present earlier, not recognized as criminal activities earlier, but now these criminal activities are there, and the legal provisions which are present in our legislation, it becomes difficult to deal with such crimes and to address such crimes. There is a significant gap between the cyber tools used by criminals and those available to the law enforcement authorities to investigate and prevent cybercrime. This is another challenge which needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Various shortcomings in the different forensic tools are lack of tools that verify data during acquisition process. There is also a lack of tools that collect volatile evidence. We also have lack of tools that collect data from active systems, and the current forensic tools are labor intensive. Similarly, there is lack of tools for operation or analysis of alternate operating system. There is lack of tools capable of viewing obscure file formats. There is inability to mount and examine a variety of operating systems, and there is lack of tools for discovery of hidden information. There is also lack of tools that assist in the correlation of intrusion detection data. There is lack of tools and techniques for analysis of distributed systems, and there is lack of tools to identify users of chat networks. So, having known all these shortcomings, there is an immediate requirement to address them and to procure such tools and techniques, so that the gap between the tools used by criminals and the gap between the tools and techniques used by forensic investigators can be reduced. The next important issue which arises here is to understand the concept of rule of best evidence, which applies to the science of computer forensic. The rule of best evidence is one of the cardinal principles, cardinal rules of the law of evidence, which requires that the best evidence in possession of the party must always be given. It means that the best evidence must always be produced. This rule requires that secondary evidence, such as a copy or facsimile, they will not be admissible in a court of law if an original document is available. The rule enunciates that to prove the content of a writing, recording or photograph, the original writing, the original recording or original photograph is required. There are many legal issues involved in computer forensic or cyber forensic. The following characteristics are required for a computer evidence to be legally recognized and to be legally produced in a court of law. These characteristics are that the evidence, the data should be admissible, it should be authentic, it should be complete, it should be reliable, and also it should be believable. It is known that a lack of adequate and proper training of law officers and forensic experts often increases the difficulty in collecting data, making it admissible, giving authenticity to it, making it complete, reliable, and turning it into a believable data. Therefore, what we need to have is a set of experts, a set of proper trained law officers who can look into it, who can investigate into cyber crimes and can address the present need of the society. There are two key challenges in a digital form of investigation. The first one is identifying the suspect. Acknowledging the fact that internet is borderless, it is boundaryless, it becomes difficult to identify the suspect and obtaining data relevant to the suspect's criminal activity. And another important challenge is to carry out digital investigation in case of data stored in the form of cloud environment. All of us are aware of the concept of cloud computing. So, once the data is stored in cloud environment, how to trace it, how to collect it, how to preserve it, and finally, how can investigation be effectuated in such a case. So, these are two key challenges in case of a digital forensic or computer forensic. So, there are challenges which are present other than these two key challenges, such as the lack of framework, lack of specialist tools, lack of data. When the data is stored in multiple jurisdictions, it becomes difficult to collect the data, to preserve it. There are lack of tested and certified tools. So, these are certain very practical and realistic challenges which should be addressed as soon as possible. So, in this module we have discussed and we have analyzed the concept and the meaning of computer forensic, various definitions given by various scholars. Computer forensic, as we understand, is the science, it is the combination of law and science through which investigation is done this applies post facto once the crime is committed. Then we apply the tools and techniques of computer forensic to trace out the data, to collect the data. We also discuss various stages of computer forensic investigation, which are collection and preservation of data, extraction of evidence, examination of evidence, and finally organizing the data in a very systematic form. Thereafter, the data is produced in a court of law. But there are a lot of challenges present in the present system, challenges which have occurred due to the use of advancement in the information technology. There is a gap between the tools and techniques which have been used by the criminals and the tools and techniques which are used by the forensic investigators. Therefore, the science of computer forensic, it plays a very vital role, it plays a very significant role in the world of cyber law. It is a combination, as we understand, it is a combination of law and technology which helps in revealing the crime and the criminal. The greatest challenge to the advancement in technology is the antiqueness of the old criminal justice system. So probably we need to amend the old criminal justice system and make it addressable to the needs of the changing society, to the needs of the changes in the use of information technology. Law must keep pace with the changes in technology and must address the needs of the cyber world, which is ever advancing. Thank you.